All right, so this video will focus on Chapter 4, Section 4. And the very first thing I want you to do is I want you to plug in values for x and then figure out the output for y. So for instance, if x is 0, 0 minus 1 is negative 1. If it's 1, it'd be 0. If it was 2, it would be 1. 3 would be 2. And then we're going to graph this out as well. So again, I go to 0, negative 1. And really all you have to do is graph out 3 points. If I go to 0, or 1 and 0, and then if I go to 3, 2, if I would disconnect these three, I would have my straight line that goes on in both directions forever. Now pause the video and try to figure out this one over here. All right, so hopefully you figured it out. This is what the y value is, and this is what it actually looks like when I graph it out. So my question, or the essential question, is how can you describe the graph of y equals mx plus b? This looks very similar to the direct variation. There's only one major difference. With direct variation or proportionality, we had y equals mx, and now we have this thing called plus b. And I showed you in a previous video that the y is your y point, your x is your x point, your m is your slope, and then I have this thing, this b, and this is your starting point on the y-axis. So if you have a starting point other than 0, it is not going to be direct variation. It will now be y-intercept form. So if I look here, it says graph each equation, find the slope of each line, and then write the point where the line crosses the x-axis. If I look here, the slope is negative 1/2. This slope is negative 1. This is negative 1. This is 1/2. This is 1. This is 1. This is 1/2. This is negative 1/2. This is 3. This is 3. The point where they cross the y-axis is the second number. So it's at 0, 1, at 0, 2, at 0, negative 2, 0, 1, and so on as you go through. All right, so this one says match the equation with the graph. Now here's a really important thing to understand. This negative 1 is where it will cross the y-axis. So if I look here, this is a negative 1, and this is also negative 1. But one is positive sloping and one is negative sloping. So if I look up here at negative 1, the negative sloping one is C. The positive sloping one is 1. Or I'm sorry, that was 3. This is 1 for the positive sloping. And the one where it crosses 2 is number 2. And I always go, first of all, by looking at the y-intercept to see where it crosses. And then I can look at the slope to figure out what it is. So here are my various words that I want to focus on today. One is x-intercept. That's where it crosses the x-axis. This is your y-intercept. Notice that the y-intercept is 0b. The x-intercept is whatever it is, so like a0. Then I have slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. And again, the b is the starting point or the place on the y-axis. So here it says find the slope and the y-intercept of the graphs of the linear equation. So if I look here, my slope is negative 4 over 1, and my starting point is 0, negative 2. This one here, I don't actually have my starting point on the same side as my slope, so I have to first of all make it so it's y is equal to something by itself, right? So I want to first add 5 here and add 5 to this side. So I'll have y equals 3 over 2x plus 5. So my slope is 3 over 2, and my starting point will be positive 5. So if I look here, I have 3x minus 7. So the slope is 3. The y-intercept is negative 7. Same thing I have to do here with getting y by itself. So y equals negative 2/3 x plus 1. And that's how I get negative 2/3 is the slope, and 1 is the starting point. So graph this and identify the x-intercept. So where it crosses the x-axis. So if I go through here, I first of all have my y-intercept. I'll then plug in like a 0, 1, 2, 3. And I graph this out here. So I have 0, 3. And then if I go down, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1, I have this point here. And that will also be my x-intercept, because that will be 1, 0. And the x-intercept is 1, 0. So the x-intercept is 1. That's where it crosses the x-axis. This one here says that I'm taking a taxi, so y equals 2x plus 2. Graph the equation, interpret the y-intercept of the slope and the slope. So the intercept or slope is $2.50 over 1, and then the starting point is 2. And how this is a real-world context is it costs $2 just to jump in the taxi, and then for every minute, let's say, it's $2.50. And then when I multiply that out, I'll get the actual cost. All right, so if I look here, it says identify the x-intercept for this one. So if I go through, I first will have to plug it in, and I'll have -4 and 1. So let me just quickly go through and do this. So if I go through, I know that I have -1, 2, 3, 4. So here's my dot. And then I'm going to go up 1 over 1. And I'll go up 1 over 1. And then I'll go up 1 over 1. And then I'll go up 1 over 1. And that is going to be at 4, right? So it's at 4, 0. So my x-intercept equals 4. Sorry, I didn't do this one. But my y-intercept here is going to be, or x-intercept is 2 whenever I plot this out. And then for this one here, the y-intercept means that the taxi has initial charge of $1.50 and then $2 per mile.